Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out there and grow your sales, grow your leads, grow your profits. More importantly, so you can have a bigger impact, a bigger reach, and bigger contribution. Let me ask you, do you think data can help your business grow? Do you think data can help you drive decisions? Do you think that if you're in marketing or focused on revenue generating activities, that data can give you some of the key decision-making processes, giving you some of the distinctions of what to do versus what not to do? Well, if so, you are going to love today's guest expert, Phillip Stutts. He is the founder and CEO of multiple companies. He's a best-selling author of Fire Them Now, The 7 Lies Digital Marketers Sell, and one of the masterminds behind the curtain of, get this, political marketing. Now, don't shut off just because of that, because there's a lot of insight you can gain by what he does and how he helps not only people in politics, but also small businesses, maybe like you, founders, CEOs, big businesses all over the globe. He's the founder and executive chairman of Go Big Media, which is a political media firm, and the founder of and CEO of Win Big Media, a corporate marketing agency. Together, the companies have won 42 national awards. What does this mean for you, though, right? On top of the fact that he's represented by Gary Vaynerchuk speakers. He's a keynote speaker of one of the largest companies in the world. He's had over 260 national media appearances, CBS, ESPN, Fox, MSNBC, CNN, and a whole lot more. What does this mean for you? He can help you. At the end of the day, he can help you grow. He can help you get more clients. He can help you use data to save you time and help relieve anxiety, help you reduce the stress in growing your business. Is that what you want? Then if so, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, and jot down some notes. If you're driving, pull over. Like right now, you should just pull over to the side of the road. If you're on your treadmill, jump off. You need to go grab a pen right now because you're going to walk away some amazing, amazing nuggets. Phillip, how are you, my friend? It's great to have you with us.
You've wasted like 20% of the podcast of that introduction, Dan. So let's get down and help people. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we talk about, like, why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, you have such a fascinating background.
Yeah.
I'm looking at if you're driving right now and you're listening, behind him, he's got an Alabama football helmet signed by Nick Saban. I'm a huge sports fan, so this caught my attention right away. It's a great, one of those attention getters. So why are you doing what you're doing today, Phil?
Oh, that is a loaded question. The short answer is that in 2012, I was diagnosed with what doctors call an incurable disease. And I have a disease called Achalasia. It's basically the muscles and nerves in my esophagus.
Don't ask me to spell that, Phillip.
Don't worry. It's not easy. But the muscles and nerves in my esophagus don't work. They're dead, and they'll never work again, according to doctors. And for the first 5 years of that existence, I didn't even Google the word Achalasia. I just stuck my head in the sand. I was being treated at the Mayo Clinic. I basically farmed out my health to them and said, well, they're the best. They'll figure it out. I'm not going to worry about it. I'd had 16 minor procedures on my esophagus. I had 3 major surgeries on it. The last surgery, they cut out 25% of my stomach. They wrapped it around my esophagus and pulled it straight, stapled it all together, and that's where it sits right now. And after I went into my checkup with the Mayo Clinic, I asked the doctor, I said, I know you guys say it's incurable, but like, what's the long-term prognosis? And he said, Phillip, you've had too many surgeries. Can't have another one. The next thing we're going to do is sometime in the next 5 to 10 years, we're actually going to do an esophagectomy. We'll remove your esophagus, and either you'll be on a feeding tube or we'll just connect your stomach into your throat, and you'll be on a liquid diet. And I'm, in my mid 40s. So, and this disease affects about 1 out of 100,000 people. But most of those people are in their 70s and 80s, not like me. I was diagnosed in my late 30s. And so the disease caused me to reevaluate everything in my life. And I realized, first of all, is at the time I was a solopreneur. And the reason I was a solopreneur is no one would work for me because I was such a a terrible person. So I don't know if I can cuss on this,
The,
but
the G-rated version right there.
yeah. And so I had this wake-up call. And I think most people, whether it's in their business or the things they've gone through the COVID-19 crisis or whatever, is they've stuck their head in the sand and they don't do anything about it until the pain becomes too big. And in that moment in the doctor's office, the pain just became too big for me. And so I'm driving home from the Mayo Clinic and I said, I don't accept this. Well, actually, I actually said, I don't accept this to the doctor. He laughed at me right at the Mayo Clinic and patted me on the back and said, yeah, we'll see you in 6 months. Take the medications we gave you. By the way, those medications have long-term dementia effects, but in the short run, they work. And I just wrote home and said, I don't accept this anymore. I got to figure this thing out. And what happened was, first I had to get my diet in order. And that took about 6 months. I found a guy named Dr. Stephen Gundry. Happy to do an introduction, Dan, if you ever want to talk to him. 4-time New York Times bestseller, has the diet called the Plant Paradox, or book called the Plant Paradox, a diet, an anti-lectin diet. I got on it. I've been on it for 3 years now. And I don't take any prescription medication anymore for a disease that doctors tell me is incurable. I keep saying that doctors say is incurable because the second part of the story is that I decided that I would find a cure to the disease. And the first thing I did was I wrote an article in Inc. magazine and wrote and said I would find a cure to this disease in 5 years. There's no research behind rare diseases. Nobody's working on this right now. And the ignorance of an entrepreneur is sort of a beautiful thing because I didn't know, how stupid the proclamation would be. Frankly, after having the disease for 5 years, I'd never told anybody other than my wife and my parents. And so people read this article and were like, jaw drop shocked. And I didn't tell them because I was embarrassed. But what the moonshot that I took to find a cure has done is it reprioritized my entire life. It's the best thing that ever, my disease is actually the best thing that ever happened to me. It taught me to live in abundance. Look, we probably share a similar story, right? In your health situation. And so I just decided life wasn't worth that. I have done 7 years of a ton of therapy, from talk therapy to going to conferences that deal with psychology, to recently doing psychedelic therapies like LSD and MDMA. And all of that has led me to have a more abundant life with my family, to have a stronger relationship with my wife and my child. And I've grown my businesses to mid 8 figures. And I have 30 employees now. And I couldn't have done that if I was still a terrible boss or a terrible dad or a terrible husband. And I was all of those things. But I realize now I have a finite time in this world. And I want to share and I want to be one of those people that just gives more than I take, I guess is how I put it on a bumper sticker. And it led me to understand that all the work I did in politics could impact business owners that were struggling to figure out the way the world was changing. The world was innovating and disrupting, and that I come from a pretty disruptive model in political marketing. And I think what we do there is beyond innovative, much further than any kind of corporate marketer is doing. And so I decided to apply those strategies and principles. And it's led me down this crazy route, but we've got this whole corporate marketing agency now that is grown about 11x year over year. And it is, we're helping a lot of businesses grow. And in the coronavirus moment, in the new economy, I sort of have something in place, and we can talk about the data, that helps businesses eliminate their risk and grow their bottom line. And then the last thing I'll say is that moonshot took 3 years, but in February of 2020, this past February, I walked into Johns Hopkins and with a team of about 25 doctors that I had assembled over the 3 years that I took my moonshot. We started a one-man clinical trial that had never been done on animals and never done on people. And they had extracted stem cells out of my thigh muscle 6 months earlier. And in February, I went in and they grew them in a lab, and they injected 225 million stem cells into my esophagus to try to regenerate the muscles and nerves. First time it's ever been done, so we don't know. I'll actually know probably by the fall of 2020. And right now, I have all these stem cells in me. They're working, they're not working, we don't know. But I'm safe. I haven't had any. There was a big downside to trying this. I went for it anyway, which was pretty nerve-wracking. But so far, since the surgery, I haven't had any downside, and I'm hopefully will get some functionality back into my esophagus by the end of the year.
That's amazing. I mean, there's so many different places I want to go with this. And one thing that pops up, Phil, I mean, this is an incredible journey, and like you're experiencing, if you extend people's life, right, and they go through stuff like over the course of whatever 20, 30, 40 years, you're experiencing it in this hyper chamber, it seems to me.
Oh yeah.
In a couple years, so the highs can be higher, the lows can be lower, etc. So I'm curious, before we get into what you call the undefeated 5-step formula, right, for business owners to eliminate risk and increase their bottom line, I want to go back to like going from being a tough ass in your business to then building 30 employees. Like, what would your team, if we asked your team today, like if they knew you back then, I don't know if they would, but if they did, what would they say has shifted in your leadership to help you transform to become a better leader, to grow a company with team and people, and not resent it, but actually embrace it? I'm curious.
Presence and vulnerability. I was the worst kind of narcissist, 8 years ago. Not the one that had a lot of confidence, the one that blamed everybody for everything that went wrong and then took all the credit for the things that went right. Know someone like that, Dan? I think we all do, right? I was that guy.
Especially a type A.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I was absolutely that person. I built all of my companies without any debt and no outside investment. I'm the only owner. And so we built it by being scrappy and serving other people first. And that has always sort of been, but we have two values at the company. And some people come in and say they're all for these two values, and then within 6 months they leave, and that happens, right? But the people that come in and embrace what we believe in, really, it's what I believe in. And it wasn't, I created these values when I wasn't this. This is what I wanted to be. And because I've wanted to be it, I became it. It's really easy. We don't have long mission statements on the walls framed. We don't sit there and talk gobbledygook and in generic platitudes. Nope. We have two values: give and grow. Give more than you take and always be growing. And I believe that everything falls out of that. If you are a selfless person and you're giving all the time, abundance will come back to you. And I believe true purpose in life comes from growth. How you grow. Is it, for me, it's, I'm growing in my health. Am I getting better with my family? And are we progressing in the company and in the businesses? And are we serving our clients better? And part of that 5-step formula that you want to talk about, that is because we were relentless for about 6 years now on optimizing client success, not trying to get clients in the door and then hoping we could figure it out once they got there. That has a lot of scary moments to it. You probably understand that.
Oh, yeah.
When you put your clients' success first, but they can leave you for anything they want, for any reason they want, anytime, and you put all your eggs in that basket, it is perilous. But we made the commitment. We didn't deviate. I've made mistakes. I've taken clients I shouldn't have. And I've compromised that 5-step system some of the time. And every time I've done it, it's backfired on me. And so ultimately, we just decided we were going to stick to what we believe in. So I think the people that come into this company go, Phillip's vulnerable. He's present most of the time. It's what I struggle with most, is presence. But he does abide by what he says, give and grow. And he has a relentless streak to improve his client outcomes every day.
And speaking of increasing outcomes every day, as you're listening, as you're watching right now, like, what would happen for you? What would the impact be for you if you were able to build into your company greater presence, greater vulnerability, and keeping it simple? The idea of keeping it simple and focusing on giving and growing, right? Think about that. Think about the simplicity of that and how it would impact you. If you came from that place, do you think you'd be able to have a bigger impact, have a bigger reach, make a bigger contribution, have a dent in your industry, if not own or dominate your industry by serving others, being a servant leader? I think that's what we just heard Phillip talk about. And guess what? We're just scratching the surface. And when we come back, we're going to dive deeper into the 5-step formula that is the undefeated formula for you to be able to eliminate risk and increase your bottom line, and what you can do today in these times, in these uncertain times, and in any economy, whether it goes up or whether it goes down, the steps you can take to be able to grow with a lot less stress. That and a whole lot more coming up on Growth to Freedom right after this. Thanks for listening to this episode of growthtofreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day, or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com. Now, Phil, before we dive into it, I want to also give a shout out to a mutual friend of ours who got us connected, Dov Barron. And he's one of the top leaders in the world. And if you don't know Dov, just go to growthtofreedom.com. Search the episodes. We've got a couple of them with Dov as well. We'll put some of his episodes in the show notes so that you can have an opportunity to understand what we understand about Dov and him being, he comes from that servant leadership, doesn't he, Phillip?
Dov is the sweetheart of the industry, in my opinion, of this thought leadership industry. I love the guy. Like I just think he is a heart of gold. I've been very blessed to come into his circle. So yeah, and by the way, he said like, I've done a couple, I'm talking to him this week. We've done like 2 interviews already, and he thinks the world of you, Dan. Like he was like, there's a guy that you got to connect with. So that's how we connected.
Thank you. And if you want to come back to this episode, by the way, again, I hope you got your pen out, you got your piece of paper, because we're going to dive into some of these strategies that are going to transform the way you think about building your business. Do it with less stress, do it with less risk, and obviously increasing your bottom line is important, isn't it? Especially in these times. So if you want to come back to this episode, you can do that at growthtofreedom.com/283. That's growthtofreedom.com/283. If you never want to miss an episode, go to growthtofreedom.com/subscribe. That's growthtofreedom.com/subscribe. So before we get into the 5-step formula, Phillip, what do you see are some of the biggest mistakes that most people make, like as they're looking to go out there with their marketing?
Yeah, they're all tactics, right? Everything's like, oh my God, I need Facebook ads. I need, they scream SEO. They don't even know what that means. They think they need to have an Instagram presence. I can give you 1,000 examples of how we work with those kind of people, and I mean specific examples, but you cannot work on tactics until you have a strategy in place. It's part of the 5 steps we can walk through, but over and over again, we just see that. Or here's the other one. In my book, I interviewed 100 CEOs from Fortune 200 to small business, and every single one of them had fired a marketing agency sometime in the life cycle of their business. Everyone, multiple. So a lot of times it was 2 or 3, and the factor that came up all the time was that the marketing agency won before the business made money. And I went, oh, that's really interesting, because I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. The most ethical marketers in the world are political marketers. I know, doesn't make sense. I get it. Let me explain. Every contract, and this is my lie number 1 in my book, but every contract I've ever signed since 1996 is month to month. Every contract's month to month. The reason I only do month-to-month contracts, even during the Corona moment when you would wish you had the long-term contract, I said no, because every month my behind is on the line. If I don't perform for my clients, they can fire me at any moment. Now, what that does is it forces everybody in my company to understand that they better be doing everything they can at every moment of the day to get the best performance out of the marketing and ad campaigns we run for our clients. And every one of these CEOs I talked to said every marketing agency they've ever had locked them into a 6, 12, even an 18-month contract.
Yep.
And I just said that would never fly in politics, ever. In politics, we don't get rewarded until the candidate wins. And if the candidate loses, we get nothing. So we've wasted a year of our time. And so everything we do is about speed and about winning, right? Because speed is because we have election day and we have a deadline and everything comes to a head on the deadline. And so there are just these weird factors that we put in place. We have to, in order to be successful, in order for me to leverage and get bigger in my political marketing and work with bigger candidates, I have to win first, right? I have to succeed for my clients before I can use that to leverage to get better clients, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I've seen this over and over and with businesses that hire marketing firms. They go, we spent $100,000 and we got no results and we're locked into a long-term contract. And what the heck are we doing? Whereas when so I decided, we'll jump into this 5-step system that we have. The 5-step system comes from politics. I'll walk through how we do it in politics, but when I did that, I realized we eliminate so much of the business owner's growth. And for a small investment up front, they can not only make their money in a short amount of time back that they invested, they're going to have an exponential growth in their marketing by using we call it the Undefeated marketing system. It's a 5-step system. And here's how it works in politics first. Candidate comes to me and says, I want to run for office. Awesome. I say, we're good. Let's find out what the voters think in your state. Let's say it's running for governor, right? And I say, great, what do the voters think in your state? So we go out and we take a survey, a poll, right? Not the kind of poll you see on CNN or Fox News or anything like that. Like, we're trying to figure out what the voters care about on issues, not who's winning, who's losing, who's up,
Right.
who's down. Like, I don't care about all that stuff. I want to know what the voter cares about. And then I ask the politician, I say, tell me the 10 things you want to run for office on. They give me those 10 things. And then I look at the data from the voters. Now, let me tell you, it is much more complicated than this, but for brevity's sake, this is how we do it simply, right? And we look at the data from the voters, and we typically find 2 issues where there's total alignment. Not 10 that the politician wants to talk about 10 things. We found 2. And we found those 2 things that at an exponential rate, that if the candidate just focuses in on those 2 policy issues, that it is going to switch voters that are undecided. It is going to move base voters into their column, and it could even swing a few cross-party switchers, right? But it's ultimately going to gift you to 51% of the vote, right? Minimum. That's what we're aiming for. And so once we find those 2 issues, right, through the data, through what voters care about, not what the politician wants to talk about, what the voters care about, and we find alignment with the politician, then we say, let's look at that data. Let's build you out a strategic marketing and ad plan, media plan. That's step 2 for us. Then step 3 is, now that we know what the data said and we have a strategy plan in place, ad strategy, a marketing strategy plan in place, now we're going to look at your content. We're going to look at your brand. And we're going to get it aligned, because if the voter goes, ooh, that's an interesting ad of a candidate, let me go to his or her website and check out what they're all about, and the brand is off, you've lost that voter. Okay. Yep. So we get the brand on point. The website focuses mainly on those 2 issues, probably bio as well. It'll have the right video content. It's, it's mobile friendly. It's all the things that fit the brand, right? The 4th step is, now that we know what the data says, we've got our strategic plan in place, we've created and made sure the brand is in established and foundational, we're going to go out and test the messages. So the one difference between us and corporate is we do low-cost testing. The way we'll do it is through banner ads rather than video, because I hate banner ads. I hate them. But if you want to low cost your message and someone sees your message online, whether it's a politician or a company, and they go, my God, that message is so compelling, I'm willing to click their banner ad, that tells me the message is going to work, and how we produce the video content for that, how we produce the platforms, and where we put everything out, right? And so on the Trump campaign in 2016, the Trump marketing team would typically take 162 different tests of one message. They would do a red background, a green background, a woman in the picture, a man in the picture, different type fonts, different questions asked, different things. The message was all the same, just they tested 100 different ways. Sometimes the message, the type font would be in the left corner, and sometimes in the right corner. Typically, they would find 8 to 10 ads that exploded, and they couldn't tell you why. But because they did this low-cost testing, they now know what will work. And then they shove all their chips on the table. That's our step 5. Now that we know what works, we've eliminated all this risk of the politician. We know what the voters want. We have a strategic plan in place. We're not running on tactics. Your brand is set, right? We're testing at a low cost those ads to figure out what works before you go invest real dollars into your marketing can. And then we run that. Now, the difference between what I do in politics and the corporate world is everybody in political marketing does it. And I'm on the Republican side, but my Democratic marketing colleagues, right, are running the same 5 steps for their candidate to beat my candidate. It's a mano a mano. It is like the war of all wars. It produces the greatest innovation that you could ever imagine, because it's a win or die mentality.
Right.
And so I thought to myself, my God, nobody in corporate America is following these 5 steps. They may test, they may look at data, they work on brand, but they don't put them in a sequential order. And so I said, I got this. We're going to do this, right? So right now I'm finishing my 2nd book, and it's going to be called Undefeated: The Secret Formula That Elects Presidents and Will Grow Your business in any economy. And the 5 steps are what I just told you. Right? For a business owner, we are going to I have a partnership with the largest data collection, analytics, and AI company in America. This is the same data that Amazon uses. It's the same data that Disney and ESPN use. It's the same data that Hershey's and TurboTax and DaVita Dialysis Systems, all, DaVita's a Fortune 200 company. These are all what they use to understand their customers and run ads. I went out and got an exclusive licensing agreement with this data company so that I could provide it at a much reduced cost to smaller businesses, because they should have the same access the big companies have. And so that's what we do. We overlay your customer base online, and we track their movements 3 months in the past, 1 month in the future. We look at what these customers do, not just what they say. And then I can come up with a 60-page report that'll tell you what your customers feel, what they want, how they want to be communicated to, the messages that they like, and the social media platforms they're on in a chronological order. We worked for an Instagram influencer who had 1 million followers and built out products in the salon world. She was selling shampoos and salon products, right? And was making a ton of money, was on stages and had conferences. And she'd built 1 million followers on Instagram. And she said, I want to go to Facebook, right? And we said, well, before you go to Facebook, let's figure out where your customers are. Right. And we overlaid the data and we tracked all of her customers. And here's what we found. Facebook was the number 4 performing platform amongst her own audience. And she was about to invest a ton of money into that platform. The number 1 platform was not Instagram, even though she'd built 1 million followers on Instagram. It was Pinterest. Mm. And she went, oh my God, I never thought about that.
Yeah, what's that worth?
That is worth a ton. We work for a national pest control company. They had spent $2 million on marketing and lost $1.8 million in market share the 2 years before they hired us. The first thing we did was we said, we're overlaying your customer data and figuring out what they want. They were marketing all the wrong messages, so it made sense. And I said, well, why were you marketing? They were marketing on discounts, and their customers were affluent and discounts seemed cheap, but they didn't want to buy it. And they said, well, we built our company on the backs of the Great Recession in 2008 through 2010 on marketing to discounts. And it worked. And it doubled the company and tripled the company and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, that message started sliding as the economy got better, right?
Yep.
And they couldn't figure out why. And they were like stunned by it. And all the data said all these other things. It said, you know, the customer wanted a higher valued product. They wanted green products so their family was safe in the home and all these kind of things. So we reorganized their brand. We redid their website. We shot a video that was kind of, we like to inject a lot of humor in our ads, but it also injected all the data that we, like all the messages from the data. We tested all of our ads and we figured out what worked. And then we launched the campaign. In the 4th month of the big launch, after the 5th step of working with us, this 35-year-old national pest control company had the greatest month in the history of their company. And why is that? Because they're not talking about, they're not guessing with a bunch of tactics. They're marketing. They're following what the customers want. They're relevant to the customers from the customer's perspective, not their own. And I get this because every business owner loves to brag about their business and how great they are. I do it too. But ultimately, the customer may not care what you are talking about. And so I'm obsessed with data because I'm always focused on what the voter cares about. And now I've kind of translated over into the business world. What I've figured out, Dan, and sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but let me finish. All right. What I figured out is that almost every decision-making process in the world follows these 5 steps. And in my book, I'm going to lay out like 40 different industries that follow these processes. I'll do one for you. Who's your favorite sports team? You like sports, right? You said sports, right? So let's just do that one. Who's your favorite sports team?
The Patriots.
Of course.
Now the Buccaneers.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So let's say it's the Patriots. Okay. The Patriots play a game on Sunday, right? On Monday, what's the first thing they do when they come back to their practice facility? They look at what?
Game film.
Tape. What is that? Data. They figure out what they did wrong, what they did right. They are now looking at the tendencies of their opponents, right? And then what's the next thing after looking at all the game film? They put a game plan together.
Yep.
Strategy, step 2, right? While this is all going on, what is Robert Kraft doing? Well, he's cleaning up the stadium so the brand looks good. They're cleaning the jerseys. They're making sure the vendors are meeting the needs of the patrons for the next week's game, right? They're getting the brand right during the week, right? 4th step, in politics and in marketing, this is the testing phase. What do the Patriots do from Tuesday through Saturday?
Run the game plan.
They practice.
Yep. Installs. They call it installs.
The plays.
Yep.
They figure out what plays will work and what plays won't work. And that ultimately goes into the final game plan. And then they go into step 5. They all play the game.
Yep.
Guess what? The Patriots are doing this. The Bucks are doing this. Every NFL team is doing this, just like in politics. Every marketer in politics does this, right? Why is sports considered like the greatest place of innovation, the greatest athletes in the world, the most admired people in the world are athletes? Why? Because they have to fight. It's a win or die mentality. They'll do whatever it takes. And they all follow the 5-step process. I can tell you now, the doctors working on my disease follow this 5-step process. The trial lawyers follow this 5-step process. Being married.
My son's 12-year-old team, we follow this process.
Right. Marriage follows this 5-step process. Venture capitalists follow this 5-step process. Everybody does it except business marketers. And so I went, oh my God, I've, found this. And explaining this over the last 2 years has been interesting because people are like, oh, that's interesting, but the economy's so good right now. I really don't, I can do whatever I want. And then COVID hit. And then all of a sudden I own a marketing agency and we have quadrupled since COVID because every business owner now is saying, I need to eliminate my risk. I need to run my marketing the right way. I have to market. That's the only way I'm going to grow my business or stay alive right now. And if I follow these 5 steps, I put myself in the best position to do that. The last thing I'll say is this, that pest control company, they spent $40,000 with us before we got to step 5 to do the data, get a strategic plan together, fix their creative or fix their brand, and then test the ads. was about $45,000. And then they had their greatest month in the history of the company 4 months later. How much better is it to spend the $40,000 to $40,000 up front to get it right, rather than what they spent $2 million over 2 years and they lost $1.8 million in their company?
It's crazy. And
Crazy.
as you're listening, as you're watching, how would putting this 5-step approach impact you? Right? Whether you're a small business, medium size, large business, or anywhere in between. If you're brand new getting started, avoid the biggest mistakes most people make by putting this game plan in your business. Install it, implement it, take action with it. Now, speaking of taking, I mean, we've scratched this. I mean, this is so amazing, Phillip. Where can people go to connect with you, to get more of you, learn more about what you have to offer and how you can help them?
Well, a couple places. One, you can just go, it's my name. It's phillipstutts.com. And that has, you can reach me there. You can get a lot of freebies over there. We have, we give you a free data assessment. So if you're a business owner and you want to understand how the data could work for you, the way that we run data, we will do a free call with you. We'll walk through how we do our system. We'll tell you how you should be looking at your own customer client data. We do this for B2B. We do this for B2C. And that doesn't cost you anything. You go to phillipstutts.com. If you're trying to understand the new economy that we're living in under the coronavirus, everything with the coronavirus related, we actually decided to take this data and we've done month-over-month surveys over the last few months to understand how American consumers are making purchasing decisions. And look, I've met multiple times with Mark Cuban in the last few weeks on this, going over this data. I've been on, met with Peter Diamandis, with Darren Hardy's mastermind group, with Michael Hyatt's mastermind group, with Mike Calhoun's mastermind group. I've now had our data report downloaded over 36,000 times in the last month. This is available for free without any funnel, without any email. You just go to winbigmedia.com, click on the tab that says COVID-19 research, and you will see month over month data. We're spending $25,000 a month just to produce this without any ask, because it's a moment where we should be giving back, right? Those values are important to me. And back in March, when everything hit for the first time, I wrote down a question. I said, how do I want to be remembered in a year? And out of that, I decided we needed to give as many business owners an opportunity to take advantage of this moment when usually they'd be frozen head in the sand, like I do with my own health, because I understand how it feels. And I wanted to break that out so we could help businesses grow in a moment that they probably shouldn't. And so we've been doing this over each month, and you can go over there and check it out. Ton of really good information about how you should be messaging to your customers right now as well.
And I want to encourage you, go to the sites today. Like right now, right this second, open up a new browser where you're still listening. You can go to phillipstutts.com. That's phillipstutts.com. If you don't know how to spell it, you can go to the episode at growthtofreedom.com/283. That's growthtofreedom.com you'll see a link. You can just click it. Also go to winbigmedia.com. That's winbigmedia.com. Find the button and access this amazing research. Phillip sent me a copy of this in advance. I mean, you want to talk about getting to the core of what the message is, like why people are buying, what they're not buying right now, what they're saying, what they're not saying. It's there for you in a very simple and easy to understand report. And chances are you could get this done for your business too. So I encourage you, go check out what he's got at phillipstutts.com and winbigmedia.com. That's winbigmedia.com. Now, as we wrap this up, Phillip, what's something I should have asked you that we didn't get a chance to cover?
How do I see the economy?
Go for it.
Well, I would tell you this. We're in a new economy. So we had this great 11, 12-year bull run. And if by the time you listen to this, you don't understand that we are in a permanent new economy, that the old economy has not changed. The biggest insight that we found in the data that we've tracked over the last few months is this. People are buying for need, not want, a W-A-N-T. We wanted things in the past and we bought to our heart's content. And now people are only buying for need. and the top messages that are working right now are safety, trust, and helping others. And something else in the data that we're seeing across the board, across the nation, this is a very macro view, is that we're moving away from the globalization of the economy. I'm not saying Amazon's going away, but what I am saying is people feel safe and trust local businesses. So if you're marketing your business and you're talking about how your product or service keeps the customer safe, and you're showing and proving trust, and you're somehow helping them and showing that, utilizing and saying that, there is some kind of local angle or local approach that you take will also be extremely beneficial in how you convert customers in the future.
What's that worth to you? Think about that. That insight from all the data, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of data points that are part of helping you understand it's necessity, not want. It's safety, trust, helping others. It's globalization is fading away and people trust local more so than not. Well, what else could you learn from Phillip and his company by when you go to winbigmedia.com or go check out his site with all the amazing resources he's got? I encourage you, go do that now. Now, Phillip, as we wind this down, I'd like to get into some of the backstory, like the personal stuff, right?
Sure.
So you went to Alabama.
Oh, I thought we already did that.
Yeah.
I'm just
I want to
kidding.
go when you were younger. Like, do you remember when you were like, I don't know when it would be when you were a kid, when you were inspired, going, one day I'm going to do bigger things. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go make an impact. Like, do you remember that touch point of whether it was young, whether it was in your 20s, 30s? What was that and when?
When I was 17 years old, I knew I wanted to go work in politics, not to run for office, but to work behind the scenes in politics. I was fascinated by how political campaigns were run. And that kind of led me into that journey. And then when I was 40, I'm 46 now, that's when I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur at 40. So all the things that we've done I just channeled 18 years worth of experience into becoming an entrepreneur. And really that's my calling. I mean, if I had to do it over again, probably would have started at 17 being an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know that. I didn't have the tools to know that. So my path is my path. And I'll never forget, I was driving to see a client. I was a solopreneur at 40 years old, and I listened to Tim Ferriss interview Tony Robbins on a podcast, and I thought, my God, whatever they're talking about speaks to me. And that literally, I pulled over on the side of the road and started writing and started figuring out my plan. And that's really the moment I knew I wanted to build businesses. And so now I've got 4 businesses. We've grown into the mid 8 figures now, and in the last 6 years, and we've done it without debt, without any loans, and without any outside investors. And yeah, that's really the key for me.
Congratulations, man. It's when Dove got us connected, we had to, our couple conversations have been amazing.
Thank you.
To hear your story. And then in a lot of ways, probably, I think for both of us, we've said this, almost like a little bit of a mirror, like
totally
on different parts of the country that, we have had our experiences. Who was your earliest influence, if you can remember back?
Oh man. Honest answer is nobody. I did not have anybody that I didn't have a mentor until I was 28 years old. Which is why I took so much to when I was 40. I mean, I did every Tony Robbins conference, sometimes multiple times, because I went, my God, there's a mentor for me, right? I've worked with Keith Cunningham. I don't know if you know who Keith is. He's one of the most unbelievable mentors of my life. I ask a lot of people to mentor me now because I'm like a sponge at 46. Because I never had anything. I always wanted mentors. Maybe that was, I own that, probably part of my own psychology. I just wasn't someone people wanted to help, until I was about 28, and someone finally said, you can come under me and I'll guide you. And that was hugely impactful for me.
And now you're mentoring others. You're mentoring founders, CEOs. You're guiding them. Your team is guiding them, doing some great things. Like what action steps would you hope that our viewers, our listeners would take from our conversation today?
Peter Diamandis, who's another guy that I've studied under. Now he's become a really good friend. I went to China with him 2 years ago. He says, and this is very in vogue right now to say this stuff, but he really was the one that impressed me. Don't set your goals to be 10% higher, set them for 10x. I set probably 30 or 40 goals a year at a 10x rate. I maybe hit 3 of the 30. Of the 37, I don't hit 10x, but 3 of them I do. I never would have hit the 10x on those 3 had I not said, I'm not satisfied until I reach this goal. The other 37 ones, maybe they go up 10%, maybe they go up 2 or 3x, maybe they go up 4 or 5x. But by always climbing the mountain, right? That is what you've got to strive for. Ultimately, it's the climbing the mountain. I've always thought, man, I can't wait to get to the top of the mountain. And I think what I've learned in my journey is I actually need to enjoy just the ride, the walk up the mountain every day. And if I can do that, I'm going to be ultimately very satisfied. Listen, I tell you all these successes, Dan. I had tons of failures, right? I've had personal failures. I've had professional failures. We're all failing all the time. They just don't get to me. It's only feedback.
Right. Yep.
And I just keep moving forward. And I'm very blessed that when the coronavirus hit, I had worked for 7 years to improve my psychology and be a better person and leader. And I was able to handle that moment with abundance and with a positive outlook rather than what I would have done 10 years ago, which is panicked, sat in the corner of my bedroom with my thumb in my mouth and in the fetal position, and would have blamed everybody for everything, right? And that's just not the way I'm going to look at it anymore.
Well, the world's better for your leadership, Phillip. And, it's an honor to have you here with us
Thanks.
today. I encourage you, as you're listening or watching, you want to go deeper, you want to understand someone who's got greater presence today than he's ever had. He comes from a place of vulnerability, comes from a place of growth and contribution. I encourage you, go check out what he's doing at phillipstutts.com, winbigmedia.com. The links are in the episode. I've got 4.5 pages roughly of notes, 5.5 pages actually, of notes here. And, here's the thing. We're still just scratching the surface at the end of the day. And what would happen for you if you took this 10x approach that Phillip just shared with you that he learned from Peter, right? What would happen for you? What would happen if you put these 5 steps in place and made that part of your permanent planning moving forward? What would happen if you got access to this data that basically, takes you from being blind to immediate clarity, certainty, confidence in your market, what they say, what they're not saying, and how you can approach them in a far more effective way? Well, we've given you the tools. Are you going to take action with it? Are you? First action you can take, go check out what he's doing. winbigmedia.com, winbigmedia. Go check out his site, what he's doing. I encourage you, take action with what Phillip's been sharing with you today. Again, Phillip, it's just an honor to have you here.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Your story, your journey, your vulnerability, all of it. And I encourage you. I hope you're inspired today. Seize the day. Make it a great week. And guess what? We'll see you next time on growthtofreedom.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of growthtofreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com.